Let's just say he prefers blueprints to passion.
Look, I didn't do anything wrong, just told a funny story. Everyone at the table was laughing, and I joined in, saying how my husband wasn't exactly exciting in bed. I meant it as a joke, really. But he didn't laugh. He just stared for a second, finished his drink, and walked out. The next morning, I found legal papers on the counter, signed, dated, waiting for my signature. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. It started at dinner with friends, just like every bad story does. We were at the Marble Finch, a loud place where laughter covered everything. Someone made a joke about marriage, and I jumped in without thinking. I said something about how some husbands are better at talking than doing, and how mine, well, let's just say he preferred blueprints to passion. The table went quiet. I laughed louder, trying to fix it. Nathan's face didn't change. He just stared at me like he didn't recognize me. I told him to relax, that it was only a joke. He didn't say a word. He finished his drink, stood up, and said he'd settle the bill. When he left, the laughter died completely. My friend nudged me, whispering that maybe I went too far. I brushed it off, saying men were so fragile. When I got home later, his side of the bed was untouched. In the morning, I found his wedding ring on the kitchen counter beside a folded napkin. No note, no text, just absence. I called my mother, told her he was being childish. She said, "Sweetheart, men hate being laughed at." I told her he'd get over it. That night, I looked at his empty pillow and said out loud that he needed to toughen up. But even as I said it, the room felt heavier, like the silence was agreeing with him, not me. The next few days, I convinced myself it would blow over. He just needed time. At the dental office, I told my co-workers what happened, turning it into a funny story. They laughed politely, though one of them said her husband would have walked out too. I smiled and said Nathan had no sense of humor. Still, every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was him. It never was. When I finally called, he didn't answer. Later, a message came. "Please stop calling. I'll be in touch when I'm ready." I reread it again and again, trying to find emotion in it, but there was none. My mother said I should post something to make him jealous, so I did. A photo of me at work captioned, "Some of us can still smile through the drama." I told myself it would remind him what he was losing. That night, I stopped by the house to get some clothes. His office door was open, the desk empty, except for a stack of envelopes. One bore the logo Bell & Garner LLP. My stomach turned. I opened it, consultation notes dated a week before the dinner. My hands went cold. He'd already been planning something. I called his mother, Margaret, demanding to know where he was. She said he was safe and that I'd said enough. I told her he was turning everyone against me. She replied quietly, "You did that yourself." I hung up before she could say more. 2 weeks later, a friend invited me to a small get-together. I went, pretending everything was fine. Everyone knew, of course, they always do. Their smiles were polite, too polite. Someone asked if Nathan and I were okay. I laughed and said we were taking space, that he was still learning not to take jokes so seriously. It sounded confident enough to fool even me. Halfway through the night, the door opened, and there he was. Nathan, calm, collected, wearing that same neutral expression that made me want to scream. He greeted everyone but me. I tried to joke about it, said maybe he came to prove he could survive being near me. A few people forced laughs. He didn't. He walked over, set a plain brown envelope beside my drink, and said evenly, "You told the story. Here's mine." Then he turned and left. My stomach flipped. I opened it. Inside were preliminary divorce papers, already signed by him. My friends looked away, pretending not to notice. I laughed again, said he must be bluffing, that he'd never go through with it. But when I got home, I sat in the car with the papers in my lap, reading every word until the ink blurred. The date on them was 2 weeks before that dinner. I realized he hadn't reacted to my joke. He'd been waiting for it. After that night, I couldn't rest. I told myself he was bluffing, that he just wanted to scare me. I even told my mother he'd come back once he missed the house, the routine, me. She said men always did, but every day that passed without a call made her words sound weaker. I started checking his emails from the shared computer, looking for proof he still cared. One afternoon, I found it, his office unlocked. Inside were folders stacked neatly, his handwriting precise as always. One label caught my eye. Documentation. I opened it. Inside were screenshots of my posts, messages, even texts with Theo, an old friend who used to flirt harmlessly. He'd printed them all. Notes filled the margins. Pattern of public humiliation, emotional cruelty, neglect of household stability. I could barely breathe. Another binder was labeled Custody, Ella. My throat tightened as I flipped through pages about our daughter, teacher comments about her sadness, notes about missed events, times I'd brushed her off because I was tired. He'd kept records of everything. When I confronted him later that evening, he didn't raise his voice. He said I'd made private things public, and now he was doing the same, just on paper. I called him heartless. He said, "No, just prepared." Then he packed a small bag, and for the second time, he walked out without looking back. The mediation took place 3 weeks later. I wore a white blouse and light makeup, something that said calm and reasonable. When I entered the room, Nathan was already there with his lawyer. He didn't look angry, just steady. I smiled at him, hoping for some flicker of emotion, but his eyes didn't even move. The mediator asked me to speak first. I said the whole thing had been blown out of proportion, that I'd only been joking, that everyone laughs about their partners sometimes. I said he was making me look like a monster for being honest. My voice trembled, but I kept smiling. Then his lawyer opened a file. Page after page of documents, screenshots, notes, witness statements, even a copy of that night's dinner receipt. Every detail was organized, calm, cold. The mediator read silently for a few minutes, then looked at me and said my behavior showed a repeated pattern of humiliation and disregard. My throat burned. I said Nathan was trying to ruin me. Nathan spoke softly. "I'm just showing what was already there." When the mediator read the ruling, custody and property to him, I felt everything go silent. I stared at Nathan, waiting for him to soften, to take it back, but he simply stood, thanked the mediator, and left. The sound of the door closing was quieter than my heartbeat. The house feels like someone else's now. His clothes, his drawings, even his scent are gone. Only the quiet remains, heavy and endless. The final papers sit on the table, signed by both of us. I keep staring at my name, like maybe if I look long enough, it will mean something different. I called my mother, but she didn't know what to say. She just sighed and told me to move on. I laughed and said I'd done nothing wrong, that people joke all the time. She didn't answer. Sometimes at night, I sit on the couch and whisper the story to myself, just to hear another voice in the room. I tell it the same way I told it that night, with the same fake confidence. But when the words leave my mouth, there's no laughter, only the sound of silence, louder than anything I've ever heard. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.